Hello and welcome to our Thursday live stream after one week break due to a couple of offline events. We are back again with a new guest, Justin Chen. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, Anton. Thanks for having me.
Who are you? Where are you? And why it's a good idea to talk to you about rapid consumer feedbacks.
Sure. So I'm Justin Chen. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called PickFu, and I'm based in Los Angeles, California. And so PickFu is a really simple and fast way to crowdsource feedback from real life people. So if you're selling on Amazon or anywhere, or you're building any kind of products, and you want to make sure that what you're selling is going to resonate with your target audience, then you would use something like PickFu. So think of it as a digital focus group where you can tap into to people and ask them questions about their buying behavior, or whether they like the product that you're about to build, or the main imagery that you're about to put up on your listing.
Thank you very much. That's a story about PickFu, but what is your story, Justin?
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. My co-founder John and I built PickFu years ago, over a decade ago, when we were building a different thing. So this was a side project. We were building a different website. We needed feedback on a redesign that we were doing. And so being engineers, we decided to build the solution to get feedback. And so PickFu was born out of need to gather feedback on a redesign. And it wasn't intended for e-commerce. It was just kind of intended for any entrepreneur who wanted to do idea validation. And so that's kind of where it started. And it has all kinds of different customers, from authors and publishers testing book titles and book covers, which was kind of like some of our initial customers. We have game companies testing character design and game UX and app store app icons. And then, of course, e-commerce sellers and large retail brands testing product design, packaging, all that kind of stuff. So
what is your biggest customer group? Which area is the biggest, or which category?
It would be retail products. So people selling either online through Amazon, or their own websites through Shopify, or through brick and mortar retail stores.
Also, yeah, of course. Okay, so you can also test the packaging, how it would look in the store, and then you can decide on which package color design and blah blah. Understood. Thank you very much for the brief introduction, and now let's deep dive into the topic: customer feedback or customer insights. In general, you gave already a brief introduction, but maybe the why behind it and the how.
Yeah, so we kind of stumbled into this space because we were looking for feedback. And once we started seeing our customers use it, we realized that there was a big gap in the market where it wasn't easy for people to gather consumer feedback. So any large CPG brand like Kraft or Procter & Gamble, kind of like these large corporations, they typically have consumer insights teams that are dedicated to doing this kind of research. They can afford market research consultants that will create the surveys and go find the audience for you, and then kind of clean all the data, analyze all the data. And this is incredibly expensive, incredibly costly. So what we've built.
One story about this one, because I was working at Bosch and we had a design thinking workshop week, and we were creating new product ideas. So that was the idea for Bosch Power Tools, and there was some point when we were not sure if this is a good product idea or if it's not a good product idea. And an entrepreneur like me was like, okay, I will ask my friends and family and blah blah blah. And but they were like, no, we're getting an agency, and I knew this is so insanely extra. So you're in the five digits then immediately. And I don't think for every single product, every single test, anybody can actually afford it. So that's a real life problem, and big corporates are solving it with money. But you guys have a better solution. So
yeah, exactly. And so what we found was there was this opportunity to kind of bring a good enough solution that obviously wasn't 5 figures, but something that everyone else can do without the expertise. And so we are trying to democratize this kind of consumer research so that anyone, because now we're all competing against the Bosches and the Procter & Gambles in the Amazon marketplace. And we need to have the similar tools to fine tune our product positioning and our branding and our packaging and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important for anyone who's selling anything to consumers to gather some kind of feedback on their idea, on the concept that they're going to put out, on their messaging, on their branding, all these things, because all your large competitors are doing the same thing because they have the budget to do so. And so we're trying to make it so you can do it on a much lower budget.
Perfect. Amazing. I saw the platform already a bit, so I really understand what problem you are solving, but let's deep dive now. What kind of things we can actually test, like real life examples? I have a few on my list, but let's start maybe with the most obvious one, main images for Amazon.
The most obvious one that people know us for is main images. So if you're, let's share screen now.
Yeah, sure. 1 second, I will put you on the stage.
Yeah, so I'll just kick it off with this really short case study that we did. So most people know us from main image because a lot of times people are selling on Amazon or any kind of marketplace, and they find that their performance isn't doing that well. Their click-through rate isn't as high as they would hope. And so they're looking for ways to get feedback on the easiest thing to improve, which is your main image. And so here's a case study where we worked with a brand called Yes Bar, which is one of those kind of like nutritional cookie bars. And we work with them to only change the image. We weren't going to touch anything else. And we were going to see how it performed for 2 weeks. And so we did a very simple test where we just did a few different variations that you can see right here. So, we didn't do any reshoots. It was just kind of repositioning the stuff that we had. And this test, I believe costs $85. And immediately we saw a session increase of 11.8%. And so there was an immediate ROI within a matter of a couple of weeks from changing just this minor image layout. And so I think that's the power of being able to validate this data. You can do live testing now, obviously, with manage your experiments. But what we try to advise people to do is to iterate on creatives before putting things live, because whenever you're live testing, you are kind of by definition losing some sales, right? Because you're testing a worse option some of that time. So you can minimize that by iterating on your creative variations offline with a platform like PickFu, and then kind of putting the best two, if you still want to test it live, onto manage your experiment. So this is what we're most known for, but it's interesting because a lot of people come to us with this main image problem, and a lot of times they'll test their main image against their top competitor, and the feedback that they'll hear actually has nothing to do with their main image. It's typically, I don't like your branding, I don't like your packaging, your product just looks horrible. All these things that it's way too late, right? The product's already in the warehouse. And so that tells them that they should have been testing much earlier in the process. And so typically on their next product, or when they decide to rebrand or repackage the product, they'll start at the very beginning. And so we can talk through some of those use cases as well.
And let's go for the packaging.
Yeah. So before we go to packaging, let's look at product design, since that's kind of like before packaging. And so here's actually an interesting example. Testing AI product concepts. Now, a lot of people were doing 3D renders before, but now that you can do AI product design, we're actually seeing a lot more of this now. And so it's a really interesting way to use AI to generate concepts. So you can still work with your designer, of course, and then get real world feedback, because at the end of the day, it's still actual people who are buying your products, not AI. So you do need to validate AI generated content with actual humans. And in this case, we actually, this person who decided to make their poll public tested 100 German-based respondents. So another point that I can make here is that not only can we test US respondents, but we could test people in Germany, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, Mexico, and Japan now. And so as an Amazon seller, and if you're deciding to sell into a different marketplace, you definitely want to do this kind of market validation, whether it's their product concept or your branding, definitely messaging and main image and all that kind of stuff. So important point there.
I mean, I have my own opinion on this and my own answer in the next question, but I would be interested in your answer. Are there huge differences in German, for example, European Union and the US in regards of main image, product packaging, design? Because I feel them. Do you feel them as well? Can you tell me a story about this topic?
Yeah, I think there is a really big difference, both in. I think people underestimate that there's different ways people buy products, and even like quantities. Even if there's a
Mhm.
demand for a certain kind of product, you know, as a huge generalization, like homes in the U.S. are typically larger, so they typically
Yeah.
they don't mind buying things in bulk or kind of larger things. That's why Costco is very popular here. But in other places where there's more urban density, perhaps like Japan, perhaps in Germany, like maybe you don't want a ton of quantity. I think even when you're doing the
Mhm.
messaging on packaging, different cultures like different things. In the U.S., they typically like a little more benefits and touchy feely kind of value propositions, whereas other cultures, perhaps in Japan and Germany, like the more factual information. So
Okay. Yeah.
tell me what it actually
Yeah.
does. Like, tell me the specs. Like, don't make all these outlandish claims. Like in the U.S., there's usually like all kinds of like, you know, exciting colors and things, like making all kinds of claims on the packaging, which I think works for the in general on the U.S. Audience, but probably doesn't work as well for some of the other cultures. So I think it's really important to test all of that. In addition to, do the people want your type of product, right? Because the way they may strain pasta could be different in Germany and the US or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So I think it's really important to kind of test all those different aspects. But yeah, like what do you think?
We have we have also examples. I would 100% agree, especially the last part with the more colors and blah. So when we see a product in Germany and the listing looks high quality, and I see a product which is the bestseller, same product, bestseller in the USA, and I was like, who the is buying this product? But kind of you like it fancy, you like it big, you like it, this strong colors, and we like it more decent, more
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey, quality, natural packaging, not the
it's true.
high class, and we 100% feel it. That's the first thing. And the second thing, which we experience, real life example, Americans and use the imperial system, and the rest of the world is using, almost
Yeah,
the rest of the world
of
is using
course.
the metric system. And we were selling a product. It was kind of a bottle in the USA with the milliliters and the centimeters, like the metric system, and nobody was buying it. And then we just changed to the imperial system, and it was skyrocketing. And we were like, okay, they just don't know how much 500
Yeah,
milliliters are.
yeah,
That's
we don't.
that's that must be the case, right? And yeah, it's huge change. And what we never did so far is that we made a packaging specifically for the US market, but it
Hmm.
would be so smart if you all in launch in the USA with huge marketing budget for PPC and whatnot,
Yeah.
to not adjust the packaging. So I will keep that in mind and propose it to my customers, as it sounds like it would be a smart idea. But please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So product design, color variations. I know this is a really popular one because if you're going to
Oh yeah,
stock product, you need to know how
yes,
much of everyone. A lot of times, we've had customers come to us and they were trying to decide between a few colors, and they'll run a pick food test, and it's so overwhelmingly for one color, they just forget about the other variations. I'm just going to stock this one, and it usually works out very well because
yeah,
then it sells out. So I think as founders, we typically think like, oh man, people are going to want this weird pink color or this weird orange color. Um, but at the
yeah.
end of the day, sometimes people just want black or something very basic. So definitely validate things like color.
It can save a lot of money
Yeah,
for products which you overstock, and it can reduce the out of stock time for products which you
yeah,
understock because you didn't do a research up front.
yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
even as a consumer, you always see products that have a lot of variations, and you see the price differences, right? Like
Yeah,
they're trying to drop the price on the one that's not moving, and that that's not great for that seller. They're probably losing money on that, just trying to get rid of the inventory.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Packaging, super important. I think this is an interesting example because all that's being changed is a very minor color, and I'm partially colorblind, so I'm not even very good at color. So when I look at all these, they all look fine to me. but
Yeah.
clearly the audience prefers option B much more. And I think that's really interesting because, you know, like at first glance, if you were designing all these three, you're like, oh, whatever, like they're all
Yeah.
fine, right? And so every little bit matters, whether it's the color or the font, you know, like where you're placing small accent images, all that kind of stuff. Our customers typically iterate on all the different changes that they're making to their packaging.
But I don't think it would work in Europe. It's probably a US listing, right?
Yeah, it's a US product.
Yeah, it wouldn't work in Europe. It's too shiny.
Too shiny.
My humble opinion. My humble opinion.
Here's another one where they're testing out like kind of different packaging.
Yeah.
And also kind of looks like the main image as well. So you know, and this one's another German poll. And then of course, the most important thing is to always validate anything you're testing against your competition. And so it's fine to iterate on your product, your own variations, but at the end of the day, it is a competitive marketplace. And if it doesn't do well against your competition, then you haven't really moved the needle. So
Yes.
usually the final thing that we see people doing is putting, you know, maybe yours was Nate's and you were working on this for, you know, a lot of iterations, but then you want to put it up against your competition. You see like, we're still not really beating them. Like maybe we need to go back and read through some of the comments. And that's something else that I forgot to highlight. But not only are people voting, they're giving written feedback on every single, all of our polls have this, and every single person who votes on it has to give written feedback. They give demographic information as well. And so this is actually where a lot of the true insight is, because, you know, it's fine to see which one won, but you really need to understand why that one won or why yours lost so that you can improve the next version of it.
And are you already using AI to interpret the data? Because that's pretty obvious next step.
Yeah. So we are doing something where
Okay.
we take all those written responses and we send it into AI to generate a summary for you. So it can, you know, grab the themes that are reoccurring in all the different responses and helps you kind of synthesize the best practices for the next version. We also have something, AI sentiment here. We also have a way to AI prompt. You could just ask, you know, any question. This is kind of a weird question. I don't know why they asked this, but but you could ask things like, well, what should I improve about option A to do better? And that it'll kind of read through the responses and give you more specific feedback. So yeah, a couple interesting AI options there. And then on the German side, when we do it, I don't know what happened there, but
it's fine.
live demos, you know.
Yeah, I know. So everybody knows. That's just a proof that we're live.
But we gather all the feedback in German. We translate it back into English for most people. But if you are German, you can just go read the actual responses. So we do that for any country where it's not English native. So in Mexico, Spanish, and Japan, Japanese. So yeah. So So that was packaging. Pricing is an interesting one. So testing out different pricing, and we actually have a tool that generates these mockups. And so what's fun about that is you could actually play with the pricing and play with the imagery. You could put your competition up there and kind of see, oh, am I able to you know, get more clicks if I drop the pricing, or if my main image is better, can I increase the price and still get the, you know, the same number of clicks? And so it's a really interesting way to test out hypothetical changes. Or if you're entering this category for the first time, before you even buy your product, testing out your product concept and the price you're going to come in at and the main image you would probably use, and just see, are you going to do well against the incumbents? Because if they've got 10,000 reviews each and you're going to come in with, you know, just a handful, can you undercut them for, you know, by $20 and still get some decent market share? And so a lot of our most savvy customers, as they're launching new products, they're doing this very hypothetical testing against their competition, because before you invest, you know, tens of thousands of dollars into product, you might as well spend a few $100s validating it and making sure that you're actually going to do well when you launch.
I have another idea. It came just into my mind. What about labels or badges? Do you test that kind of things as well? For example, we have like a movement in Germany. Maybe it's soon forbidden by Amazon, but not yet so far. It's like a label, a test label. It got the grade 1.3 from some label institute, which you can pay money for to test your product
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how it works, if it works. Can you do anything on the images,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
does
For
it need to
sure.
be
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. I mean, that the image is up to you what you put here. I'll just show
Okay.
you what I think I have it pulled up. Where did I put it? Oh, right here. Okay. So we have this mock-up generator, and so
Mm-hmm.
it'll generate these little screenshots that'll kind of mimic the approximately what the shopper experience. And so you could put in specific ASINs, or you could put in a keyword, and we'll grab some. Um, and so what you can do now is you can take one of these, and maybe this is yours, maybe it's not, but you're going to modify it. You can change the image, you could change the title,
Mm-hmm.
arbitrarily change all of this stuff. And so then what we'll do is we'll just take these screenshots, we'll import it into the poll builder, and let you kind of run these hypothetical tests. So so you could generate an image that's got some of these labels on it, like, hey, what if I got this certification? What if I just change the main image layout, whatever it is, like you can test hypotheticals with it. And I think the most fun thing that I've experimented with is definitely just changing around the pricing and the ratings to see how that affects people's perception, because it's really interesting. It really is a combination of all these factors, right, that get the click.
Yeah.
It's not just the main image, not just the title, not just the ratings or the price. It's all of them. And so there is some kind of sweet spot that you can play with that works with your economics of the product that you're selling, where you could adjust the price to get more clicks, or as enough clicks, right?
What is the most used feature?
The most used use case that people are doing?
Yeah. Yeah. The most. Yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely be like a main image test,
Main
and then
image test.
testing against competition. So testing their
Mm-hmm.
variations, and then testing it against your competition. But one other one that I'll show that might kind of open up people's minds on like what you could do is just,
Okay.
we don't always have to test things against each other. It could just be open-ended. And so in this example, it's kind of like a crowdsourced listing audit, where we just ask people to go visit your listing and see what questions they still have. Because sometimes you think you've addressed all the objections, but maybe not well enough, right? So
Mm-hmm.
maybe people are still wondering if it's washable or if it's edible or whatever it is. And if you thought maybe just a single bullet was enough to emphasize that, maybe it wasn't. Maybe you need to put in the title. Maybe you need a secondary image for it. And so it's a really interesting way to surface like different concerns, like, how quickly does the ink dry off the paper? What surfaces should this not be used on? So like, interesting questions that may come up. Maybe they'll ask it in the question section, but a lot of times people don't, right? They're gonna read through it very quickly. I think I just saw something on LinkedIn today about how an entire purchase on Amazon typically takes less than 3 minutes. So people are really going very quickly through every listing. And if you can't make these objections go away right away, you're not going to get the sale. So I think this is a interesting way to showcase that you can ask anything open-ended. And so even if you don't have a URL, you could ask open-ended questions to your target audience about their problems. So if you're a mom with kids, what issues do you have, like preparing lunches, or like what don't you like about your diaper bag? So like a lot of this early stage development, you could ask them, where do you learn about, like, if you're thinking about marketing, where are you learning about like new trends as a mom? Like, and maybe you'll get certain channels or like influencers that they follow. So there's a lot of interesting things that you could ask that are besides just testing creatives. So really just think of it as that digital focus group. Like if you were just going to walk into a room with your potential audience and just ask them questions, some of the things may be testing creatives, but other things are just going to be wide open questions where you just have them kind of like speak their mind.
And we cannot emphasize this enough. Many times for sellers, the sellers themselves, they are not the target audience of the people which are buying the product. In many cases, that are like M&A finance guys. In most cases, actually, M&A finance guys, they are opening up a new business. They're totally data driven, and you're probably not the perfect person to judge results or to decide on an image, decide on a color. And I felt this myself, and I was surprised many times. We launched, I don't know how many products, but it were a few, and we were so often surprised by what the people actually are asking for. This what you explained, so it's a real life problem, and I felt it many times myself. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the last thing that I'll highlight is one more case study. And so it's another main image one, and there's a blog post on our website that I could share. But basically, there's this headphone manufacturer, and they were losing to their top competitor, and so they wanted to make some adjustments to it. And so what they did was they just started looking at the other ones and started making layout changes. So the first thing they did was they just made it bigger because they found that their image was smaller. So they made it bigger, and immediately, they did well in that one. And then, so here, I think this is the one. This is the first thing they did. So like this was much smaller, and they just kind of enlarged it. People liked it. They could see it more clearly. So immediately they were doing well. Then they started seeing all the other competition, and they were doing things like including all the different components that come with it, right? Like the extra earbuds and like all those things. And so they started playing around with like all these different iterations. I think it was dozens of them. And let me see if I could find it. Yeah. So 30 rounds of testing all the different earphone combinations. And what was amazing was not only did they start beating their competition, but they actually started selling 10 euros higher than before. And so increase in sales, increase in price, all they did was change the main image, like exact same product, nothing else changed. And so they continued doing this down their product line. And for each one, they were not only able to increase sales, but also increase price. And that's how much the main image can matter in both getting the clicks and the conversions. And so, and also it speaks to the power of the iterative process and kind of like trying different things, because you don't want to just copy, but you can be inspired. You can be inspired, and you still want to stand out too. So it's kind of a combination of like, okay, well, people do want to see all the things, but maybe there's a way for our thing to pop a little bit better, maybe showcase some unique design aspect of our product. So whatever it is, you need to find a way to satisfy what people want, but also to stand out against the competition.
My main takeaway for today is we are bringing brands from Europe to the USA, and in any case so far, we just copy pasted the product, adjusted the compliance, of course, the language, and then we put it on Amazon.com. And I think for such a huge product, I wouldn't do it for Belgium or Poland, micro marketplaces. But if you go to the States, it's probably worth to challenge everything from the product colors, design, packaging, up to the images. And I guess that's something I will definitely tell my US customers more often. Thank you very much. Sorry for interrupting you.
No. I think that's all I had.
That's all you had? Perfect. We are almost in time to 29 minutes into the game. Justin, thank you very much for this insights. I'm positively surprised what you can do. I mean, you pitched everything before, but the real life examples opened my eyes and I started getting creative. So we will definitely stay in touch. Thank you very much for your time. To the audience, have a great weekend. You can hit us up, LinkedIn, whatever. Just send us the questions. We will forward the questions to Justin, or you can reach out to Justin directly. My name is Anton Hermann, and the last words belong as always to our guest. Oh, wrong one.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anton. I definitely want to emphasize that consumer research is easy, and we try to make it as simple as possible for anyone to do without expertise. So definitely give it a try. Check us out at pickfood.com. It is free to create an account, and we do have a free onboarding poll so that you can try it out, see what it's like on your own product, without committing any money. So check it out. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Yeah, and good luck.